June 1966. The sky turned black, the sirens rose, and in a matter of minutes, a city was changed forever. 60 years later, the stories still echo across Topeka. From 13 News, this is 60 years after the storm. Topeka Remembers, sponsored by Assurance Exteriors.
Hello to you. I'm David Oliver. 60 years ago, in a matter of minutes, the capital city of Kansas was changed forever. A monster tornado carved a path of deadly destruction right through the heart of our city, turning an early summer evening into a pure nightmare. In this special report, we have a closer look at how the storm formed, its magnitude of destruction, and the lasting lessons that still influence how Topeka and the nation prepare for tornadoes today. The massive F5 tornado killed 17 people that year, injured more than 500. About 800 homes were destroyed and more than 3,000 were damaged. It caused more than $200 million in damage. That's equal to almost $2 billion today. At the time, it was the costliest storm in American history. On a June evening in 1966, the sky over Topeka turned deadly. A powerful tornado, half a mile wide, raced straight through the heart of our city, leaving lives and neighborhoods in ruins. Meteorologists say the memory of that storm still drives how they work and how they warn when skies turn dark.
The big tornadoes are always a topic of conversation for us, especially as we get close to those anniversary dates. It was a big impact on this city that we're in, that we serve.
I was 8 years old and we didn't have a basement. My mom made us sing songs to drown out the sound of the tornado. It truly sounded like a freight train was coming right through our house.
Early on June 8th, forecasters knew the atmosphere over northeast Kansas was primed for something big.
The meteorologists could tell that we had all the ingredients in place to have tornadoes and potentially big tornadoes. There was plenty of instability. The wind shear, the wind speed and direction was just right to get tornadoes.
The first tornado alert for Topeka went out right after 7 p.m. with perhaps the most impactful and memorable warning coming from our own Bill Curtis.
If you live in the north part or on the northern edge, for God's sake, take cover.
Soon, eyewitness reports helped confirm what forecasters feared that night. People like famed WIBW photographer Ed Rutherford could see it clearly.
I saw the beginning of a tornado like a giant whirlwind. It was kind of light in color out by itself from a kind of a squall line of dark cloud.
As the tornado took shape southwest of town, it traveled over Burnett's Mound and cut a 22-mile path of destruction through neighborhoods and Washburn University before dissipating just east of Billard Airport on the city's northeast side. It was on the ground for half an hour, at times its path half a mile wide.
We were at the Pennant Cafe when it hit. Really thought we might die.
Afterward, they were calling for people that had station wagons to help. They were running out of ambulances.
Our house next door where the wolves had lived was completely gone. It just lifted the house and carried it across the road and dropped it. They're the ones that were killed.
When the debris settled, 17 people were dead. Hundreds were hurt, much of the city damaged or destroyed. The recovery would take years.
In the area near 29th and Gage in South Topeka, destruction at its utmost. Cars overturned, houses completely smashed to many thousands of pieces. The injury toll at this time is anybody's estimate.
I was in Boy Scouts. We volunteered to help with cleanup. We worked in the area of 29th and Gage. We drove through a lot of devastation. I will never forget that evening.
My first husband was in the National Guard. He and his fellow Guard members were posted to prevent looting. Their weapons were not loaded, but the second night they were issued ammunition.
All law enforcement agencies have converged on the scene, and they are urging everyone to stay entirely away.
The 1966 tornado forced new conversations about communication and community preparedness, conversations that still shape how Kansas plans for severe weather.
Today, the radar we use is dual polarization Doppler radar. The Doppler allows us to see the speed and direction of hydrometeors within a storm, so we can detect rotation within a storm before tornadoes develop. Today, if we feel that a warning is needed, we can issue one within seconds based on the program that we use. And then within seconds, almost immediately, that information goes out to media, weather radio, mobile devices.
For meteorologists in Topeka, the 1966 tornado is the storm they often measure others against. It's a night that changed the city, changed the science, and still drives the warnings they issue 60 years later.
One of our biggest goals when it comes to warning is lead time. It's looking at those cues in the environment, on the radar data, on satellite data, to see when we might get that tornado or we might get that hail or wind before it happens. And there's a lot we've learned from research and from looking at these past storms and with the technology advancements that we try to predict things like tornadoes happening before they happen to get that very important lead time.
And coming up, a new conversation with Bill Curtis, the broadcasting legend whose words of warning that night are a lasting legacy of that fateful storm. But straight ahead, First Alert Chief Meteorologist Jeremy Goodwin explains how empty land first hit by the storm 60 years ago is now highly populated today.
You're watching 60 Years After the Storm. Topeka Remembers, a special presentation by 13 News, sponsored by Assurance Exteriors. Welcome back to 60 Years After the Storm. Topeka Remembers, a special presentation by 13 News, sponsored by Assurance Exteriors.
The Topeka tornado touched down approximately 8 miles southwest Burnett's Mound. It was highly visible because it was not rain wrapped at all. People could see it and they reported it. Luckily in 1966, the 8 miles southwest Burnett's Mound was mostly rural with just a few homes. I want to show you areas that were in the path of that devastating tornado that are now neighborhoods. Many folks may not even realize that you might live in or near the tornado's historic path. Let's check out the map. The southwest part of Topeka has seen a huge number of homes and businesses added over the last several decades. Many folks drive southwest Wanamaker each day between 37th and 41st Streets. 41st and Wanamaker is the middle of the path of the F5 tornado, which was more than 3,000 feet wide at that point. Clarion Lakes neighborhood would have been devastated. This drone image is looking north along Wanamaker just a few days back. This is the roundabout at 41st. The roundabout at 37th, right there by Walgreens. These homes would have been absolutely devastated. In 1966, this is about how Wanamaker looked between 41st and 37th. Very few homes and a lot of open land. Next, the tornado would have just missed the Walgreens at 37th and Wanamaker. Clarion Woods would take a direct hit. The YMCA on Southwest 37th is right in the middle of the tornado path. Now we're over to Fairlawn. That's the Southbrook Apartments, Denison State Bank, and Sunflower Smiles are all right in that area. Now we get to Burnett's Mound. Most homes on the west side of the mound would be spared today, but look at how many homes and businesses are in the tornado path here. That's Cedar Ridge Apartments on the modern map. Across 470 was some of the most extreme damages along Twilight Court, near Gage, where these homes were absolutely leveled. That kind of strength was ripping through on the east side of the map. NOAA images after the tornado show the difference from today. There were very few homes south of 470 here. Let me turn this image now, and we're looking from the water tank on Burnett's Mound to the southeast. Few homes and a lot of open land back then. Topeka Baptist Church, Cedar Ridge Apartments, all of these homes on both sides of 470 would be devastated if the same tornado happened on the same path again today. La Petite, Blue Dot, the gas station south of 470. Many homes and businesses would be leveled if this happened again today on the same path. Of course, the capital city still saw loss of lives. 800 homes were completely destroyed, another 3,000 damaged, and all these developments in the southwest part of Topeka are in the path of the historic storm. If it happened again today, it would put more homes at risk, but of course, it's unlikely to ever see that on the same path, and hopefully we never see anything even similar. When our special report continues, former WIBW anchor Bill Curtis shares new reflections on what he saw and felt while broadcasting that fateful night 60 years ago.
You're watching 60 Years After the Storm. Topeka Remembers, a special presentation by 13 News, sponsored by Assurance Exteriors. Welcome back to 60 Years After the Storm. Topeka Remembers, a special presentation by 13 News, sponsored by Assurance Exteriors.
Welcome back. Bill Curtis is certainly a national broadcasting legend, but his most important night on the air in a 6-decade career may have been right here in Topeka, Kansas, during the 1966 F5 tornado that ripped across our city. I was honored once again to speak with Bill Curtis as he looks back on the moment that he warned viewers with those words, "For God's sake, take cover."
At 8 minutes before 7, WIBW photographer Ed Rutherford spotted the tornado newborn as it whistled past his house, 12 miles southwest of Topeka. As Ed chased it toward Auburn Road, he radioed the discovery to WIBW, and we gave the alarm to take cover. It was 5 minutes till 7.
On June 8, 1966, a half-mile wide F5 tornado cut a 22-mile path right through Topeka, leaving 17 dead, hundreds hurt, a city in ruins. Inside the WIBW studios that night, young anchorman Bill Curtis realized this was no routine storm.
The staff at WIBW, when we all gathered around and everybody finally realized this is the big one. What are we going to do?
With a twister bearing down and people crowding into the studio for shelter, Curtis says there was no playbook, only instinct.
So what went through my mind was, what do I say? I want to be different and let people know that this was not just another routine announcement. So I thought about cussing. That would have been a good way to kind of break through crying. Felt the hysteria kind of rise in me when I realized people would die unless they got into a shelter. And finally came to the conclusion, in flash of a second, of for God's sake, take cover. And people have later told me that there was something different about that.
Now all we can do, and the best service we can perform now, is to, I hope you have gotten the message by now, for the east part of Topeka, it should be alerted. The entire city was alerted earlier. It is now moving toward the north part of the city. If you live in the north part or on the northern edge, for God's sake, take cover.
Among many areas of complete devastation, the powerful storm slammed Washburn. Curtis still remembers the moment he heard how bad it was.
I remember one of the big moments was when Newton Vickers, county judge, walked into the studio. And I think we were on the air, and he said, "Washburn's gone." Well, that phrase has a seriousness to it that really cuts through. Washburn's gone. In fact, he was accurate.
Decades later, survivors still thank Bill Curtis for that plea to take cover, a bond he says will never go away.
And the people, of course, never forget, because this is the moment of their lives, and mine. And they, today, there's sort of a bond between us all, that, hey, were you there? I was there, thank you. I would thank you to WIBW for saving our lives.
It was the experience of broadcasting during the life-changing storm that helped Curtis make a life change of his own. He turned away from his pursuit of a law career, believing broadcasting could save lives. After 6 decades and big stories covered around the world, Bill Curtis says the most important moment of his career was right here at home, when he told Topeka, for God's sake, take cover.
I guess the one thing I did accomplish is that I wanted to say something different, something from the heart, from the gut, that would move them. And apparently it did. I look back at 60 years of a career and a lot of big stories. The most important was the very start.
Bill Curtis, of course, a native Kansan, and Curtis chronicles his award-winning and storied career in his book titled Whirlwind, which starts off by him recounting that very night he was on the air here at WIBW trying to help save lives. When we return, how a Topeka nonprofit is still helping people 60 years after it was thrust into very quick action by the tornado.
You're watching 60 Years After the Storm. Topeka Remembers, a special presentation by 13 News, sponsored by Assurance Exteriors. Welcome back to 60 Years After the Storm. Topeka Remembers, a special presentation by 13 News, sponsored by Assurance Exteriors.
Out of Topeka's horrific tragedy in 1966, a big idea got a breakthrough start. 6 Topeka churches had just started putting a plan together to offer food, clothing, and basic help to their neighbors in need, families just struggling to get by. But before they could really launch the effort, the tornado hit, turning that little idea into a full-scale relief effort that still shapes the nonprofit Doorstep today.
We do emergency assistance, focusing mostly on basic needs. So we always have food and clothing.
The mission at Doorstep looks a lot like it did in the aftermath of the 1966 tornado, helping people when it matters most. 60 years ago, Doorstep grew out of an interfaith idea. 6 Central Topeka churches looking around their own neighborhoods, seeing a need and working together.
So there were 6 churches right here in Central Topeka, right here in the neighborhood we're still in, that got together and wanted to help the people on their own doorsteps. One of the original taglines was something like, as people are helping around the world, we're going to help people on our own doorstep.
In late 1965, they were still organizing donations, volunteers, and paperwork to get the Doorstep mission underway. Then in June of '66, everything changed.
So they were like, getting that all together and getting the logistics, and here blows this tornado through and thrown into action.
So Doorstep ramped up efforts fast after the storm cut a path right through Topeka. Lifelong Topeka resident Jim Martin is a current volunteer at Doorstep today, and he remembers what it was like living through the storm and its aftermath.
Looked like a bombed out city there. And I came up there, I had a new Cutlass Supreme, it blew out all 4 tires with glass and everything there, so it wasn't a good day. It was a disaster.
But in the midst of utter devastation, people showed up for one another, just like Doorstep was designed to do.
Took it as our first job to walk through the East Topeka area to see if there were people that in the neighborhood that needed immediate help, and we tried to give some assistance.
Everybody was very, very helpful to everybody. I mean, there was always somebody giving a helping hand and everything. So there was a lot of people, helping a lot of other people.
And out of all the chaos, Doorstep found its purpose, which continues today. 6 decades after the storm, the memories still come back, especially this time of year.
Every year at this time, people know if they were alive or here, they know where they were They know, you know, how they made it through. They know where did they get hit, did they help others.
From a tornado-torn city to a neighborhood nonprofit that still answers that knock at the door, Doorstep continues to live out the original vision, meeting people where they are, helping neighbors in need.
And you help a lot of people. It's very, very rewarding. You help a lot of people. It's hard to believe how time goes by fast. How time goes by fast.
And this year, Doorstep marks its very own anniversary of 60 years. Now, for perspective, Kansas saw 35 tornadoes in 1966. There have been 6 F5-rated tornadoes in our state since 1950. We want to thank the National Weather Service, Bill Curtis, Doorstep, and some of you, our viewers, for sharing your thoughts and reflections with us on one of the darkest days in Kansas history. Thank you for watching 60 years after the storm Topeka remembers. I'm David Oliver, 13 News.
Get the latest news, weather, and sports at WIBW.com. Thank you for watching 13 News, winner of the 2025 Regional Mural Award of Excellence in Innovation.